Around this opening, which had, possibly, for ages permitted a free entrance to the brilliant moonbeams that now illuminated the vast pile, grew a quantity of creeping plants, whose delicate green branches stood out in bold relief against the clear azure of the firmament, while large masses of thick, strong, fibrous shoots forced their way through the chasm and hung floating to and fro like so many twisting strings. The person whose mysterious arrival had attracted the attention of Franz stood in a kind of half-light that rendered it impossible to distinguish his features, although his dress was easily made out. He wore a large brown mantle, one fold of which, thrown over his left shoulder, served likewise to mask the lower part of his countenance, while the upper part was completely hidden by his broad-brimmed hat. The lower part of his dress was more distinctly visible by the bright rays of the moon, which, entering through the broken ceiling, shed their refulgent beams on feet cased in elegantly made boots of polished leather, over which descended fashionably cut trousers of black cloth. From the imperfect means Franz had of judging, he could only come to one conclusion, that the person whom he was thus watching certainly belonged to no inferior station of life. Some few minutes had elapsed, and the stranger began to show manifest signs of impatience, when a slight noise was heard outside the aperture in the roof, and almost immediately a dark shadow seemed to obstruct the flood of light that had entered it, and the figure of a man was clearly seen, gazing with eager scrutiny on the immense space beneath him. Then, as his eye caught sight of him in the mantle, he grasped a floating mass of thickly matted boughs, and glided down by their help to within 3 or 4 feet of the ground, and then leaped lightly on his feet. The man had performed this daring act with so much indifference wore the Transtevere costume. God damn it, Dumas. You gotta extend everything. Just tell me who this guy is, for goodness sake. So much mystery. I guess that's the bargain. That's the contract I signed going into this story, that it's meant to be mysterious and evocative. I'm not really mad, obviously. It's more the premise of the show than it is the story itself. I mean, is anyone else picking up big Batman meets Zorro vibes? We have no idea who this man is. Is it Vampa? Is it Dante? Who knows? But we get a glimpse into, I wouldn't call it aristocratic, but not necessarily the countenance of a brigand. Is this going to be one of those stories where Vampa turns out to be a brigand with a heart of gold? Someone who defies all expectations? Or maybe this is Dante. Maybe this is the Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know, folks. I have no idea anymore. I have no idea who or what or where I am at any point in this story anymore. But that's okay. That's okay. It's not a complaint. It's not a complaint. It's just an honest reaction. I mean, granted, he's not wearing a mask here, but I was kind of put in mind of, as they described, the hat that's covering his face, the cloak, or they call it a mantle, which is thrown over his shoulder. It kind of put me in mind of when the Phantom arrives at the masquerade ball. As I say that out loud, I'm like, no, the more you think of that, the less likely it is. I guess, okay, I know what it made me think of, and I understand why I jumped to Phantom of the Opera. It reminds me of the old pulp character, the Shadow, partly because Franz is seeing this character almost in silhouette against the starry sky, but that you can only see part of the features of his face, or his hat is covering most of his countenance. I said countenance a lot. Between this and Odyssey, the other podcast I'm doing, I'm noticing a lot of old-timey language is starting to creep its way into my vocabulary. Point being that this guy, the mysterious nature of this guy is really reminding me of the Shadow, which now makes sense as to why it's giving me big Batman vibes. One question that I am moving on an assumption here, because I don't know that I could tie it to a specific line, but the idea whether or not this figure knows Franz is there. I'm going to say he doesn't, that Franz, what did it say yesterday? Right before, yeah, I guess there was a line yesterday that said, by a sort of instinctive impulse, Franz withdrew as much as possible behind the pillar. So Franz is hiding here, and I'm assuming that the figure does not know he's there, otherwise would be acting slightly differently. But the Zorro vibes it's giving me is when this figure, alarmed by some sort of noise, decides to move on his merry way, but not just by walking away. No, by grabbing, as it says, floating mass of thickly matted boughs. I'm thinking just like vines that hang down over. If you ever played Uncharted or any video game where you have to climb up and down different levels of things, there's a lot of that in Baldur's Gate. Just these vines that hang over the ledge of something so that you can climb up and down different elevations. But it put me in mind of Zorro like grabbing some sort of rope and swinging himself down to a different elevation. I guess that happened a lot in Three Musketeers too, so can't attribute that to one character over another. All right. Will Franz figure out who this guy is, or will he get away? Let's find out tomorrow as we read a little bit more of Chapter 34. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.